personally do anything with STEM teachers or STEM outreach. I am here because I think it's really important. And my sort of goal for today is, I feel like sometimes engineering is a little bit of a fuzzy term. So I'm going to try to tell you what I do specifically so you can pass that along to your students. And I'm also going to tell you about how I got to where I am because I think it's a bit of a unique path to get to engineering. This little thing is not working. Sometimes you have to click on it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So I work at a medical device company called Edwards Life Sciences. It's in Irvine. We develop technologies for structural heart disease. So the patients that we try to help are very sick. It's hard for them to walk around. It's hard for them to do much of anything because their heart is working so hard to pump the blood through their body. So our ultimate goal at Edwards is to help the patients live better lives, live longer. So we develop the devices that help them do that. We have three main sections of Edwards. We have a critical care business unit. We have a surgical therapy unit, and we have a transcatheter therapy unit. So the critical care and vascular section, they make products that monitor patients in the hospital. And then our surgical heart valve therapies, so this, let's see how this works. This guy is a surgical heart valve. In order to get one of those, one of the heart valves in a patient's heart is very diseased, so they actually cut the entire chest open and cut the heart open to implant the surgical valve. This is a ring that helps sort of restructure the valve to sort of hold it in the right shape. And our transcatheter heart valve, so both of these are actual heart valves that are delivered through a catheter, which is minimally invasive surgery as compared to the surgical heart valve where you have to open up the entire chest. Now I'm hoping I have a video of a transcatheter. Oops. One. There we go. I'm hoping this works, and it's not gross, I promise. Maybe it's not going to happen. Well, anyway, so, oh, yay, it's working. So it's a little hard to see, but the catheter goes up through the patient. It's very small. It goes into the heart. This is actually something called a guide wire that sort of gives it the right direction. You can see that there's a valve that is very diseased. They send a balloon through to open up the valve and sort of crack open anything that's hard in there, because a lot of times they're calcified and they're very hard. There's the valve that goes in, and they inflate it with a balloon and expand the frame, and then the new valve works beautifully. And it's just a little tiny cut, and the patients feel better. So this is a video of what the valve expansion looks like to the physicians that are actually performing the surgery. So you can see here is the valve, and then the balloon expands it open, and you can see the little frame around it. So these are life-changing technologies. So now that you know a little bit about what Edwards does, I want to sort of tell you how I got to where I am now. Like I said, my story is a bit unique. I'll get to that. I wasn't the child that like played with Kinects and built robots as a kid. And like you sort of think of children who are going to be engineers when they grow up. Actually, when I was in middle and high school, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I basically loved math and science, and I liked making things. So I grew up in Melbourne, Florida, actually just like not like right around the corner from Kennedy Space Center and NASA. And my mom was a home economics teacher, and she moved to the county office, and then now she sort of runs all the vocational programs from the county office. My dad was an electrical engineer who worked at, so Melbourne is actually filled with engineering, large engineering firms for defense and aerospace. There's a base there also, pretty close to there, and there's NASA, so it's a big hub for defense and aerospace. My dad was an electrical engineer at one of the large defense companies, but then he actually became a technology teacher at high school. So I took AP Physics and AP Calculus and all of like the, high-level math and science classes in high school, but I also really liked fashion, and I took sewing classes and fashion classes. So basically I really liked making things and all kinds of things. Not robots, but other things, girly things. But it's hard to see how math and science and fashion and putting together an article of clothing are related. So actually in high school I had the opportunity to take the ASVAB test, which is the Armed Services test for sort of career placement. And they told me that I should be a mechanical engineer, like 100% you should be a mechanical engineer. And I was like, no, that's boring. Mechanical engineers have boring jobs. Because I didn't know what a mechanical engineer was. So I went to Florida State for undergrad. Originally, I went in as a physics major because I really loved physics in high school. Turns out I didn't actually love physics. I really liked the mechanical part of physics that I took in high school. But when I got into the real sort of electrical part of physics, I was like, ooh, not for me. So I switched to math because I love solving problems, and I've always loved math. So I also started working in a genetics and neurobiology lab, studying zebrafish and how their eyes sort of develop throughout their lifetime. So I'm sort of all over the map here, right? I like everything. A little hard to sort of hone that in. But anyway, I graduated from Florida State with a degree in math. Still had no idea what I wanted to do. But I continued working in the zebrafish lab. So while I was working in the zebrafish lab, I would go to the professor that I was working with, and I would say, like every week I would have a different career that I wanted to do. I would go and I would say, I want to be a teacher, and you go, okay. And then I would go and I would say, just kidding, I've decided I want to be a doctor, and you go, okay. And then I would go, just kidding, I really want to be an optometrist, and you go, okay. And then I was having lunch with a friend of mine, and I was talking to him about how I still sort of didn't feel like I had a direction for my life. There was a lot of things I felt like I could do, a lot of things that I liked to do, but there was no really clear direction for me. And I was telling him that, in high school I had taken the ASVAB test, and they said you should be a mechanical engineer, but I didn't want to do that. And actually the next 2 words out of his mouth changed my entire life. He said, why not? And I couldn't answer that question because I didn't know why I didn't want to be a mechanical engineer, because I didn't know what a mechanical engineer did. So I did some research. I looked up sort of what mechanical engineers did, and decided that it might be a good idea, a good fit for me. So I went to Georgia Tech, got a master's degree in mechanical engineering. It was a good fit. So basically, mechanical engineers can work on almost anything. Almost anything that you touch has been designed, tested, built by mechanical engineers. Cars, airplanes, tablets, anything has been touched by mechanical engineers. I actually chose to go into the medical device field because I like knowing that what I do can help people live happier, healthier lives. But what do engineers really do? Okay, it's easy to say, they work on all of this stuff, but really what do they do? I mean, I grew up surrounded by engineering, and I still didn't know what engineers did. I thought it was boring because I had this sort of picture in my mind of someone that was nerdy with a pocket protector, you know? So here is a video from one of my favorite movies of all time, sort of showing what an engineer does. And some of you may recognize this movie. Oh no, it's not.
Look, Mom.
Oh, there it is.
I drew a picture of me landing on the moon. And look, Mom, I made a prototype of the rocket out of macaroni. And look, Mom, I made a real rocket based on the macaroni prototype. And
Okay, so that's from Despicable Me, for those of you that don't know. So, as a mechanical engineer, I perform a wide range of duties throughout a life cycle of any project, fill in the blank. I work on medical devices, but this could be for anything. So, I help brainstorm ideas for new projects, you know, napkin drawings, we draw on the board, we have a bunch of ideas. Then I take those design ideas and I put them into a CAD model on my computer. Once we have the CAD model, then we can build prototypes. This is a 3D printed bicycle. So I use laser cutters and 3D printers and machine shop, a huge machine shop, to build prototypes of the things that we design. Once we have prototypes, we can do testing. I actually also talk to physicians and users and marketing to get their feedback on how usable our device is. Once we have that feedback, we can go through more iterations of designing and prototyping, and then once we've come up with a good design that we think is useful, then we create the real product. And then once we have that final product, it moves on to production, and if there are any problems in production, engineers also help with that. So there are lots of skills that are specific to engineering that I use on a daily basis. Problem solving, 100% of the time. If you have somebody that's good at problem solving, point them in the direction of engineering, because that is what I do 100% of every day. I use CAD constantly. I do machine programming, technical writing, all different kinds of stuff. But there are also things that I think are important for all careers, in addition to mine, that I think that I would recommend you guys sort of honing in on your students and helping them learn those things. So, first of all, teamwork. It is jobs that don't allow you to work with others are few and far between. I work with many people in my organization. I work with other engineers to do the brainstorming and design stuff. I work with technicians and machine shop workers to do the prototyping. I work with marketing and physicians, as I was saying, to do sort of the feedback. So teamwork is really, really important. Also, good communication skills are extremely important. When I go to a physician and I want to get their feedback on one of our products, how can I tell them how our product works and what it does if I don't have good communication skills? So that's really important. And actually, the most important thing that I think that you can teach your students is how to figure stuff out on their own. I think the internet is a great tool, and I think that they need to be taught how to use it effectively. There is a wealth of information out there that is at their fingertips. So when a student comes to you with a question, encourage them to take a minute to see if they can figure it out on their own first. So I one day decided that I wanted to make jewelry. So I wanted to learn how to cut stones and make jewelry. So in order to cut stones, I had to take a class because that requires special equipment. But to make jewelry, I literally just did some research online and watched videos, and now I have pieces of jewelry that I've made because I figured it out myself. In addition to this, I would also like to encourage you to share with your students the importance of job shadowing. That also also changed my life. So remember that one time when I said maybe I wanted to be an optometrist? The way I know that I didn't want to be an optometrist is because I shadowed an optometrist. And I would have been miserable if I had been an optometrist. I love going to the optometrist. I can't see at all without my glasses or my contacts. And I thought that it would be great to also share that gift with people, but I would have been extremely bored if I had been an optometrist. So shadowing not only lets your students say, oh, I really like this, but it also says, oh, I really don't like this. And lastly, I would like you to talk to your students about engineering. Help them understand what it really is, now that you maybe have a little bit of a better idea of what it is. I actually brought my personal business card. If I would be happy to pass them around to you, please share them with your students. If they have any questions about what an engineer is, what an engineer does, I will gladly take my time to talk to them. Edwards also has shadowing programs. If you email me or call me, I can connect you with the right people to send your students to the shadowing programs. But yeah, I want you to talk to your students about engineering, but not just the students that look like future engineers, not just the students that are building robots and that are like doing really great in math and science. Talk to your students about engineering. Talk to the ones that like to tinker, that like to build things. Talk to them that they have good spatial awareness, and talk to your students about engineering that have good creative problem-solving skills and that can think outside the box, because that's what engineering really is. Thank you.